Congrats to Latitude 64 and House of Discs for showing some fight in the offseason. As, like I said, it has kind of become a question of what is going to happen. I'm still curious about what is going to happen with Ricky, or where he's going, or what the goal is with him. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hope you're having a good day at work. You're probably watching this at work. But Isaac Robinson signed with Latitude 64. The most surprising part of this to me is that he supposedly, I haven't seen the contract, signed for $175,000 a year. And now, while that is obviously a pretty good amount of money versus working, in corporate America, for being a two-time world champion, three-time major champion, back-to-back world champion, and a couple of seasons ago we were just seeing players much less accomplished than that signing much better deals than that. So three things, I guess. Does that speak to House of Discs budget? Does that speak to Isaac Robinson's marketability? Or three, does that speak to just where disc golf is as a whole? Because I'm sure if, let's just say XYZ company was offering Isaac $900,000 or $800,000, he wasn't going to go to Latitude for $175,000. So what I first think of is, again, 2021, 2022 era. I mean, there was a lot of people signing deals that were similar to this, and they weren't the two-time world champions. Ricky, signed a deal worth millions of dollars and getting Bitcoin as a signing bonus, and he was a two-time world champion. And now, mind you, Ricky is been one of the greatest players on tour for 12 plus years. Has hundreds of wins, majors, whatever it is. So it's not just two-time world champ versus two-time world champ. But, when you're talking about somebody as talented and as good and as well received as Isaac Robinson, and seeing the pay difference as to if he were to sign this contract a few years ago, raises some questions. One, I'm happy for him because I know it's a gosh dang lot more than he was getting at Prodigy. So it's awesome that he's seeing a raise and he's seeing a bump. But seeing these brands and what's happening and how they're rewarding or not rewarding certain players is just interesting to me. And that's why I make these videos for you guys, to kind of give you a inside look, not only on what I think or feel, but what is just like happening overall in the sport from an insider's perspective, not some rumors on Facebook. So one thing I will report on, I have promised Ricky that I will not talk about him or his dealings this offseason. One thing I will simply say, because it's public information, is that as of yesterday, someone contacted me. It seems as if he has taken Dynamic Disc out of his bio. Whatever that means, I don't know. I have no clue. I mean, obviously an educated person could guess, but I don't know what that means. But if you're publicly doing that and people are monitoring your accounts and stuff, I had a few messages yesterday asking me, and I said, I will put the screenshot here. I said, hey, I promise Ricky I will not talk about what I do or don't know, or really him, but this is pertinent information in my opinion in terms of this is public info. It's on his social media accounts, and it seems as if he has removed Dynamic Discs from them. I don't know what that means will be replaced. I have no clue where he's going. None of that is even my business, and this offseason I've been trying to do a really good job of not spoiling these things and not being out of place when it comes to talking about these things. I try to wait for the announcement to come and make my video based off of that versus spoiling it for the players, the companies, and for you guys. So, Isaac Robinson, what does this mean? Excuse me. Honestly, I don't know. I hope that the House of Discs and Latitude the ship has sunken all the way to the bottom, and rescue support is coming, life support is coming, and it's going to lift the boat back up. Because honestly, they're a huge boat, and I believe there's a saying, rising tide lifts all boats. So the better that they're doing, as I mentioned in a previous video, the better all of disc golf is going to be doing, because they have so many brands, they have so much available money and capital, that the better that brand is doing, they're going to be more willing to sponsor tournaments, sponsor players, help junior programs, and do all stuff like this. When you're losing $25 million in a year, it's going to be tough for you to want to sponsor people or pay them what they're worth or give people raises or do any of that stuff. So I want House of Discs, Latitude, Dynamic Discs, Discmania, yada, 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 to do really well, because what that's going to do is that's going to reflect positively in our sport. Again, as for Isaac, I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great ambassador. I don't think that, I mean, obviously by the math, he probably doesn't make the biggest impact in terms of sales or, whatever. And if he did, I think Prodigy probably would have stepped up and paid him as a two-time world champion. And I think that, his offer or whatever via Latitude would be better. And maybe that's just me not understanding the actual demographic of the market right now being maybe a little bit soft. Because I feel like someone like him, who's liked by everybody, hangs out, in that group of Gannon and those guys, positive influence on YouTube, and as great as he is at disc golf, the value could be higher there for someone like that. And again, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not seeing the full picture, but I know that, from where he was to where he is going to be a significant pay increase regardless. So my opinion is I'm happy for both Robinson brothers, one to Discraft, one to Latitude. Super awesome news. They're both it's insane they came from the same household and the same mother, and they're that talented. Pretty special story there with obviously the two best brothers that have ever played our game. But yeah, what does this mean for anything else within House of Discs? I don't know. It is cool to see them picking somebody up, in my opinion. Again, that's showing that they have some fight in the tank, that it's healthy, that they do have a budget to spend. And like I said, all of this is perception, right? Like, we're seeing, I've seen people commenting, I don't even know anyone that throws their discs. I don't this, and it's like, yeah, you're probably right. Like, you probably are. It's, I think a lot of their European sales and a lot of their European following and fans is how they are, in the position they're in. Because from my perspective, and this might be short-sighted, but I do play alongside and with the best players in the world most weeks. Nobody that is open bag, like by choice, right? Like they could throw Innova, they could throw any company, chooses to have like a bunch of Latitude discs in the bag. So one of the things Isaac said is like, oh, they have like an unparalleled lineup. In my opinion, and I could be wrong, and you guys in the comments I'm sure will be happy to tell me, if the lineup was that good, a lot of these players, myself, whoever it might be, would be throwing a lot more Trilogy discs if the discs were uncomparably as good or better. Especially players who came from Trilogy into open bag, obviously you think you'd keep a lot of your staple discs. But when you're replacing the Rive or the Raider or the Enforcer with the Destroyer, or the Emperor or whatever, that to me means that the disc, you think one disc performs better than the other. So that's one thing that I try to keep in my perspective when I hear these players go, oh, this is the best discs in the world. It's like, yeah, I mean, anybody who has a brand new sponsor is probably going to try to ride that wave of, these are the best, and that's what they're paying for. But at the end of the day, I think there's some genuineness of not jumping to saying that. Sure, of course, you think they're pretty good. And at this point, most or all disc golf discs are pretty good. But I do think that they're at the tour level, the tour wind, the tour speed that we're throwing the disc, there is a difference in discs. And I or anybody else could tell you that, and it's not a secret. There's a reason that there's some Destroyers worth $500 and some that people won't pay 5 cents for, is because the $500 ones are super overstable, super reliable, have a certain feel, certain stiffness, and some are just discs that belong in Dick's Sporting Goods or Shields or wherever. So there is a difference in discs, and people can argue that or say, oh, I'm crazy or whatever. I've played this game for a long time, and for part of that time I threw it harder and probably further than almost anybody in the world, and I can tell you that 2 Destroyers or 2 Bosses or 2 Rives are not the same. So if you want to talk about discs being similar, I think that's a tough argument when, the open bag people aren't using them. That's my perception. That's my take. I could be wrong. Would love to hear from you guys if you guys are, throwing. And like I said, I think at a certain point, if you have a Firebird and 3 other Firebird-like discs and your max distance with the driver is 300 feet, they're all going to go out and go left. So it's really hard to tell the difference. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The tour speed, it's just like a golf ball, right? If you're swinging the your driver 80 miles an hour, probably not going to see much of a difference. If you're swinging at tour speed of 115 miles an hour, the way the ball compresses, the way it spins, the way it reacts, all that stuff is going to start to make a difference. It's the same thing for us. A disc isn't just a disc to us. We have to sometimes find special runs or whatever. But that's besides the point. That only came up because he mentioned like unparalleled lineup, and simply, I find that hard to believe. Besides the fact that they're paying him $175,000 a year to say that, but that's just my opinion, and you guys can take it or leave it. Either way, congrats to Isaac Robinson on your $175,000 deal. And maybe he's starting his own brand within Dynamic Discs or House of Discs, right? And Ricky is going to have his own line and his own new company name, and that's what he's going to be putting in his bio versus Dynamic Discs. I don't know. We are probably all going to find out together. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next one.